on the topic. So welcome back to maybe the third or fourth installment of my check-ins with my health coach, amazing coach Andrés Preschel, Know Your Physio. We are doing our weekly or bi-monthly check-ins with my he's my health coach, my biohacking coach, and we've made some progress. We have some pretty cool updates to go over, and obviously always looking to get better and go farther. But yeah, so today's I think the third or fourth installment, and I definitely want to talk a lot about diet today because I don't think that we've really done too much on diet. We've talked a lot about sleep, which is big. And I think that I've come a long way. And maybe the main reason for the results of the blood test could be the sleep. And also cutting out alcohol for sure too. But so without further ado, we got it's funny because I was just watching the Netflix show about Balco. Do you remember Balco?
Balco, no.
Balco was the lab that like Barry Bonds went to and Marion Jones went to. You were pretty young, so you might not have been.
I don't think
you were alive, but it was around 2000 to 2008 when Victor Conti, he was like this like mad scientist in San Francisco, and he was basically advising like Barry Bonds and Marion Jones and all these people who got like world records and the home run record and all this stuff.
Wow.
And so anyway, I just watched this show about like it's all about like getting like measuring testosterone and cheating USADA. And
so are you calling me a mad scientist?
No. Well, yeah, of course. That's a big compliment.
That's a great compliment.
Anyway, so without further adu, we have my blood work from like what's the date here?
One was in October.
So we have two. We have two. Obviously, you always need
a benchmark
for a comparison study. You need two. So we have my labs from.
I think it was October 13th.
Let's see here. We have my blood work from 8/22. So August 22, which is good. It's about 6 months, and then we have the current one, which is 1/30. So
okay, that's what it was. Yeah,
that's about 6 months, right?
Yeah, I think it's like five something like that. Yeah.
It's a good amount of time in between. So I don't know these as well as you. So anyway, long story short, my testosterone went from like basically high 200s to high 500s. So it doubled.
Over 100% increase.
So I don't know. That's the new study, and then you can just swipe to the left to go to the old study.
There we go.
But
so this is August. So we've got the T right here. I'll zoom in. Testosterone 283.
283. Okay.
And then here, boom, 586. And honestly, man, in a 5-6 month period, you're 40 years old.
42.
Without TRT.
With nothing.
No peptides, no TRT.
Nothing.
Just lifestyle change.
Yep.
That is unheard of. That's huge.
Well, I think it's easier when you're going from a low point, right?
It is. I mean, sure, you're more sensitive to changes, right? But either way, regardless, that's a huge
it feels
difference.
Great. And I feel a pretty big difference too.
Yeah.
I definitely feel a big difference.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? Was there anything else on the studies that like changed drastically, or?
Let me see. I think one of them was your. It was either your glucose or your A1C. Let me see here. I mean, there were improvements across the board. The thing is that let me see here. No, I keep going back to that. Let me see. Oh, well, yeah, your C-reactive protein was extremely high in the first test. It's HSCRP, so that's high sensitivity C-reactive protein. So it's like a marker of stress.
C-reactive protein?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was really high in the first test. Your A1C was a 5.4 on the first test, which is a little, I think the cutoff for prediabetes, and I could be wrong, but it's something like 5.3 or something. So
Okay.
you're technically, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think you were pre-diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Okay.
Still 5.3 for most people is decent.
Like probably a normal in America, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like normal
no,
to be pre-diabetic.
normal is higher. I'd say normal is definitely going to be a little
or
higher.
average, yeah, which is insane. Which I think we've talked about, like that
Yeah,
fatty liver disease comment my doctor made to me about how everyone has it.
yeah, and I think across the board, everything looks better. But I do want to like, focus on testosterone today and some dietary stuff. And I'll tell you what, I definitely like to think of myself in some ways as a mad scientist more so than a biohacker. Because honestly, nowadays, I don't really like to identify as much as a biohacker, even though I was just featured in a biohacking documentary.
Okay.
Because there's just so many gimmicks in biohacking and so many like shortcuts and people that have no idea what they're doing. And I'm not saying I have the answers to everything at all, or like I'm the best expert, but there's a lot of like anecdotal evidence that people will just like totally exploit in a sense. And it's kind of like this theme of like, oh, if it works for me, it'll work for you. And a lot of these so-called experts on social media, they show their results and they show their approach and their lifestyle. And like, oh, I can help you do the same. Buy my course, buy my ebook, buy this, buy my programs. And that's just not the case. And so I like to speak more on behalf of like established literature, randomized controlled trials in humans, systematic reviews, meta-analyses, and just looking at the big picture and also looking at our evolutionary history. And I think I have a certain background that allows me to speak intelligently about those things. I did my whole pre-med program, physiology, nutrition, psychology. Now I'm doing this neuroscience master's. And one of my favorite classes in college was evolution and biodiversity. And I ended up being like I was a TA. I was a teacher's assistant for the following year. So I helped teach the class in evolution and biodiversity. And I'm just so fascinated by, our preserved evolutionary mechanisms and how we express them in this modern day, and how there's this sort of like mismatch. This modern world is not designed in a way that really considers our evolution. And so it's like, if we want to step into this world, step into our excellence and live biologically, not biohack, but live biologically, then we have to do things a little differently, because the convenience that we're polluted by really works against us. It doesn't allow us to express that beautiful, intelligent design. Yep. So give you an example, right? Like just basic examples people can understand and really digest this point. We are not designed to be exposed to blue light once the sun has gone down. That totally messes up our circadian rhythm, which then is, associated directly and indirectly with every other biological process in our body. So if you get that wrong, you're setting yourself up for failure the next day, because you have to go against the grain to find energy, motivation, focus, productivity, right? Like the sun is such an important physiological cue that was a part of our life. Regardless, you had to experience the sun coming up and sun going down. That's how we were programmed. And nowadays,
it really does feel like medicine when you get when you're getting really attuned to it.
Yeah.
Like it's a combination of like medicine and like natural, like especially when you haven't gotten sun in a while and you get it, you're like, oh, it really feels like medicine. It's so healthy.
It's our relationship to the sun is just so it's so important. It
really is like a food source for all lifetime, basically, but especially humans.
Yeah, the way that it gives us that natural rise in cortisol that helps to motivate us. Most people don't get sunlight, and what do? They wake up in the morning, they're already stressed out about what they have to do that day, and they're dehydrated because they just spent all these hours sleeping and losing water through breathing and maybe a little bit of sweating. You can lose 5-6 pounds of water just overnight. I lose
6 pounds basically every night.
Yeah, that's dehydration. So when you wake up in the morning, you're dehydrated, which creates more stress in the body, elevates your heart rate. You combine that with stress for work, and then you add in caffeine. And it's like, think about the number of people that operate that way on a daily basis. If instead you get great sleep and you wake up energized, focused, productive, and you get that response, you get that physiological cue from the sunlight, now your body is orchestrating mechanisms that are preserved in its evolutionary design to give you energy, the energy that you need to succeed, to reproduce, to survive.
Yep.
And the second
And get
that
your
we add
testosterone
in,
higher.
Okay, testosterone higher. And also, that's the first investment you can make in sleep. We've already covered this. I don't want to go too far in depth on this, but I do want to just make the point that I'm not so big into biohacking. Instead, I like to live biologically, I like to engage in habits that are biologically consistent so that you can live your best life in the modern day.
Yeah, it's like hacking always gets like this kind of not bad connotation, but it feels,
hacking has a negative connotation.
Trick. It's like it's not like a trick, it's just learning.
It's like a gimmick.
Like, let's use science. Yeah, it feels gimmicky, the term, but really it shouldn't be gimmicky. It's just like, oh, well, I learned that it's healthier if I follow the circadian rhythm and get sun like a It's not a hack. It's just like good science to live by.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the term.
Well, it's just science to live by.
Yeah, it's
not even good science. It's just science to live by. We don't live by our science.
Yeah,
we live by convenience.
And also, when you said like the mad scientist thing, I think that I watch, and we've talked about this, and we'll talk about it today. But I follow a lot of because I'm interested in it. A lot of the like health gurus on YouTube with their podcasts, and Huberman and Attia, and Saladino and all these guys who are, really
that was a curveball because you named very credible people and then you put Saladino in there.
Yeah, well, for a regular person, they all seem similar. Like you don't know the difference, and we've
100%.
talked about it, and now you've kind of showed me that Saladino maybe is not as credible as the other people, but like Thomas DeLauer, for example, and everyone, like, even if they mean well, they're like, there was a new study, and I think something that a lot of people don't realize, because I'm not a scientist, but I always thought like a scientist, and I'm a mathematical person, and I understand that you can, what I'm trying to say is that basically you can, just because a study has findings doesn't mean anything. Like you can, like the big pharma companies, for example, have been paying for studies. They're like, here's $10 million, do a study and make it show that Percocet's not addictive. Okay. And the scientist will go and he'll design a study and he'll set the parameters and he'll figure out a way to produce what looks like very clear and convincing data it's numbers. How could it be? Yeah. It's not mine. I'm just measuring things and giving them to you. How could it be misleading? But it could be very misleading, especially when you present it that way. So I think that everybody should be taking studies and the findings of studies with like a massive grain of salt, because a lot of people, especially the talking heads on YouTube, don't have the expertise to really look at a study and say, well, let's look at exactly what they did. And sometimes they don't even publish all the stuff that they need to show you for the transparency to show you why a study is complete shit. But I guarantee you studies have come out that get like, this study showed XYZ. And if you had a real expert look at the study and be like, this study that's on the cover of New York Times that everybody's talking about is completely worthless.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that happens regularly.
Yeah. I mean, if like Naval Ravikant, who's one of the biggest thinkers of our, generation, and brilliant guy, brilliant investor, right? I'm not saying this isn't word for word, but he says something along the lines of applied science, of all specific knowledge, applied science gives us, it's like the highest leverage specific knowledge. And it's a shame that our world thrives on science. Like our world is built on science.
Yeah. First principles, like Elon says.
Exactly.
You can't go down further than that.
But unfortunately, the vast majority of people have no idea how to interpret science or tell fact from fiction. And they'll just kind of take any science as, it holds the same weight.
It's also another reason why you could have like super smart people talk about like, also the markets are in a way also science, and no one has cracked the code for like, no one really knows when the market will go up or down, even though at the end of the day, it is like, there's theories and you're like, well, this cycle, it's going to be this, or, whatever. you can try and break it down into first principles, but even when you're like breaking things down into cause and effect, the smartest people will be like, this is what I think right now based on the information I have and the way I'm interpreting it, but it could change. Like it could change if someone shows me a study that, you know, the way that this thing is working or not, you know, you have to be flexible based on the currently available information and studies and science, what it's showing. Otherwise you're setting yourself up for, you know, being misconstrued and misinterpreting the data that you're receiving and interpreting it the wrong way.
Yeah. I mean, the best scientists in the world are the most skeptical people. And I would highly recommend for anyone that's tuning in that's interested in interpreting scientific research, telling fact from fiction, and really being able to dissect the structure of a study to determine its effect size and really how efficacious it is. I recommend tuning into a podcast that I just did with Alan Aragon, all about interpreting research.
Okay.
It's such a clear, concise, and effective podcast for the average person.
I'll check it out.
That doesn't know.
It's on your pod?
Or yeah, it's one of my. It's on my podcast,
okay.
And it's one of the most recent episodes that I did.
What's the guest name?
Alan Aragon.
Alan Aragon. Okay.
Yeah, he's like one of the world leading experts in evidence-based health and fitness.
Okay.
And he has an incredible research review that he publishes every month. It's called the AARR, Alan Aragon Research Review. He's absolutely incredible.
What's his background or training, or like what are his qualifications?
In nutrition. You know, master's in nutrition, and is like considered a world leader. And
so he's a scientist.
He's a real scientist. He's a real scientist, and he's an extremely humble.
What is a definition of a scientist? Like, what should it? Look, I'm a big believer in, first of all, degrees. Their value is questionable. What really matters is, you know, what have you done for me lately?
I'll put it very simply. My opinion. Real scientist is someone that abides by the scientific method.
Okay. Sure.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. They and, you know, they just have to be educated on the areas that they speak about, really applying the scientific method.
A skeptical individual that abides by the scientific method.
Sure. Yeah. So anybody could be a scientist. You could be like, I'm a scientist of, you know, lifting weights, right? If that's all you think about and that's all you do, like you don't need any degrees. Like,
well, what makes me a mad scientist is I'm extremely obsessive. I'm a bit neurotic because a lot of my approach, and I even get, it's like, I started getting into this, as I described in the first podcast with you, because I was like saving my life and my health. And that made me obsessive. And nowadays, when I get to share this with people, I reinforce a lot of the stuff that I've had to learn to fix myself. And so I still kind of get that like obsessiveness, you know, like that fix, if you will. Like I get to reinforce my journey, and I get to remind myself why I do what I do, consciously and subconsciously, right? So I think I'm a mad scientist because this is how I live my life. Every day I'm looking at the research, I'm looking at literature, I'm trying to learn more. And I also would say that my approach to self-experimentation is something that I think most people wouldn't do. And don't get me wrong, I have made a lot of mistakes and done a lot of really stupid shit.
You're supposed to.
Well, I don't think everyone is supposed to.
No, you're supposed to make mistakes and do dumb shit.
Well, that, sure. Yeah. But I've done a lot of stupid shit too.
Sure.
And
you're still supposed to do that too.
But I'm happy to do it, man. I'm happy to be a human guinea pig.
So I think, you know, the thing that I want to really focus on today is, and I think this is like, a lot of the stuff I do it for myself, but I do it because I think what would I want to listen to if I was scrolling YouTube, and you know, what would catch my eye is like, what the fuck is actually a healthy diet? Because if you listen to like a really top level speaker, if you listen to Jordan Peterson, not that he doesn't hold himself out as a diet expert, but if you
should never, by the way, he has no qualifications.
Yeah, but and he doesn't. He always, I think he does a pretty good job of saying this is what works for me. Figure out what works for you.
Fair enough.
But if you listen to like, I'm just picking his name out of whatever, because if you listen to him talk about like how amazing the carnivore diet has been for his health
and the confidence that guy,
you'll be like, holy shit, I might need to be carnivore.
And
right?
Look, I think honestly, the best magicians on the planet are psychologists, people that understand applied physiology and psychology, because they know how the human brain works in such a way beyond your
right,
awareness of your brain.
Right.
Like he can plant ideas with such conviction and confidence that he can convince anyone to do anything. In my opinion, it's like Andrew Huberman. Like Andrew Huberman's not right 100% of the time, not even close.
Yeah.
A lot of real scientists, I mean, he is a real scientist, but a lot of other scientists that are experts in the field that he touches on, because he's a neuroscientist, specialized in ophthalmology.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of scientists that will call him out because he ends up exploring certain areas and topics that pertain to their specific research, and he's not an expert in those topics.
He's not as trained as they are.
So the point is that, but still, Andrew Huberman has a sort of character and a means by which he delivers the material that is enough to convince anyone that he is the expert.
But I think he does Huberman does a pretty good job of saying, I'm not the world's leader in this topic, but this is what I know. And blah,
but
blah,
if
blah.
you take a Stanford neuroscience PhD that runs a lab that has the #1 podcast in the world, even if he says this is just my whatever, even with the disclaimer, he's still convincing tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people to do whatever he's doing.
So going back to what I was saying, so if you listen to Jordan Peterson talk about how carnivore has helped him for like 10 minutes straight, you're going to be like,
I'm going carnivore.
I need to seriously consider going carnivore. Like, doesn't even matter if you have like any serious health issues or whatever. Like, and then if you listen to like Paul Saladino and you don't know like whatever him, you're going to be like, oh, I really need to think about doing like whatever his fruit and meat kind of diet. Right. Obviously Liver King.
I don't even want to bring that
was like a pretty obvious one where you don't really need to take him too seriously. I mean, I think most people a lot of people still listened to him and took him very seriously because he made a ton of money selling supplements. So people were listening to him. But the point is what I'm saying, there are really well-spoken, even seemingly well-credentialed people that promote, like, let's just say like there's 5 different, like there's certain vegans probably that if you listen to them for a while, like you'll be like, holy shit, I need to think about being vegan, right? Or I need to Peterson or whoever, I need to really think about being carnivore, or I need to think about being a meat fruitarian. Like, so with that being said, what do you do? It's kind of like when we try cases, when we've done mock trials, when we've interviewed the jury afterwards, they're like, well, when the plaintiffs was giving their case, we were like really ready to give the guy $10 million verdict. And then the defense attorneys stood up. And then when they started talking, we were like actually really ready to give the guy 0.
Yeah.
And now we're just really confused.
Well said. Yeah.
It's kind of like that's the feeling as like a regular person who's just like trying to figure out like what's a decent diet, that's kind of the feeling that I feel like a lot of people really have right now. And then as a result, they get like overwhelmed. And then they're like, well, since I don't know what the perfect diet is, I'll just eat like shit.
Yeah.
Or it kind of spirals
they get that decision-making fatigue, and then they go with whatever feels most natural and comfortable for them, unfortunately. And I don't blame people, but I'll tell you what, I think that if you want to be a citizen scientist, for anyone tuning in, if you want to be a good scientist with your health, and something catches your eye, whether it's veganism or carnivore or whatever, I would really be diligent about doing research on both sides. Look at experts on both sides. Like, for example, when it comes to plant-based diet and lifestyle, Simon Hill is an incredible researcher.
Okay.
And if you watch him for an hour, you are going to go vegan or plant-based.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
I would really, and he's called out Paul Saladino countless times, specifically Paul Saladino.
Okay.
It's funny because Paul Saladino has the word salad in his last name and he doesn't touch that.
Oh, yeah. He's the king of the plant defense chemicals, right? Yeah. And seed oils.
Yeah, which, by the way, works synergistically with beneficial plant compounds to give you those health benefits. Like, there is research that I've seen that shows that a lot of those lectins can work synergistically with all kinds of phytonutrients to give you all kinds of benefits. Like,
yeah, I don't want to even go down the rabbit hole of the specifics on anything like that. But yeah, so.
The point is, honestly, man, I think that, like, I'm going to talk basics and just big picture because I don't want to prescribe anything. I'm not a nutritionist.
Right.
I did a master. I started a master's in nutrition while I was still in my undergrad, an advanced degree. And then I ended up being a graduate assistant helping to
Is the
teach physiology nutrition
side
classes.
note, is the stuff that's being taught, like if you were to get a master's of nutrition now, or maybe 5 years ago, and maybe we can go over the difference, is the stuff that's being taught like now, let's just say, is it even super current or is it kind of already dated?
So I know a lot of people will bash like all of these degrees and like people that are attaining them because, oh, if it's outdated. But I'll tell you what, here's what they accomplish regardless. Is a really good program is going to teach you how to actually think like a scientist,
Sure.
how to actually review the research. So as research evolves, which any good person, any good nutritionist, any real scientist is committed to the evolution of science.
Right. You know, you
It's
have to
not
know
like,
what
oh,
it was 30 years ago. You have to know what it was 15
and you
years
have to
ago.
stay on top
and
of
you
it.
have to know what it is
So-
currently. And
So
where
that's
it's
a
going.
good scientist
Right.
as well, right? And that the skepticism is built in there because if you think you know it all because you have a degree, like you're the worst scientist.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
everything changes. We get better data, more data, and then we re-evolve and recalibrate.
And the problem is that people that are bashing on folks that don't have a degree, and if those people that are bashing on the guys with a degree, if they think that they're the ones that are right, like they have no real understanding of the scientific method. And they don't know where to look for the best research. They're just kind of going based on their intuition and their anecdotal evidence. And that is the lowest tier of evidence.
Yeah, of course.
So those are the worst scientists. They're not even scientists.
Right.
They're just, they're charlatans. They're quacks.
Right.
So the point is that sure, in any degree, you're going to see outdated stuff, but you're going to learn to think in a certain way. And then if you make the commitment to keep learning, then that's what the program is designed to do. My program, I had the chance to learn some incredible fundamentals. Like, for example, I didn't have to take my courses in like I didn't end up pursuing a path of medicine, but I did my pre-med courses. So I did physics, I did organic chemistry, I did biochemistry, right? And those courses today don't serve a purpose in the applied science that I look at now. Right. However, they taught me to appreciate the scientific method and they taught me to appreciate fundamentals in a way that I think is absolutely priceless. They taught me to appreciate the level of depth that you need to go to actually speak intelligently about any specific topic.
Sure.
And so anyone on social media that is making these big claims that doesn't actually have that kind of appreciation for the literature as it continues to evolve or any kind of real background,
right,
beware.
Right. But like, for example, it's not like necessarily a prerequisite. Like Derek, more plates, more dates. He has from what I understand, he has no formal training. Maybe he has like a college degree of whatever, but like a just basic undergrad college degree. But I think
he's obsessive. He's obsessed. That guy is.
He's pretty well respected. Like
he
most of his takes are pretty legit, or he's says that he doesn't know, right?
And there absolutely are outliers like that.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that didn't get the traditional training, that didn't go to university.
But they'll
Maybe
crush
they got
someone who did and then stop being obsessive.
Exactly. So there absolutely are folks that do that and they do a great job and they have a commitment that even real scientists, to put it that way, don't have.
Right.
So I think it really comes down to if you see like, and Alan and I spoke about this on our podcast, like the problem with social media as far as educating yourself on these topics goes, the problem with it is that the algorithm likes novelty.
Yeah, it likes clickbait.
Novelty is the furthest thing away. Viral content and novelty is the furthest thing away from, by definition, from real evidence. Because I'll put it this way, why do things go viral? Because everybody likes them.
Right.
And if you're following advice that everybody likes,
it's like low-hanging fruit. It's like why everyone stops to watch a car accident.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Honestly, most of the stuff that I'm going to get into in just a second, with regards to, at least my stance on nutrition, it's going to sound so effing boring.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone tuning in is going to be like, "Oh, well, we knew that already." Well, guess what?
Because people are looking for a quick fix.
Exactly.
Like, if I just eat meat, my whole life will be fixed.
And people like to follow something culty, like people like to be in their tribe and they like to feel special.
That's human nature.
Validated. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm glad you said human nature, because real human nature, if you look at human beings and the way that we've evolved to eat all kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, look, the food we eat nowadays is simply not the food that we ate throughout the millennia that preceded us. But either way, you got to do the best with what you've got. You know, I'm not going to tell people to start eating lab grown meat because it's now the cleanest or whatever like that.
Right.
That to me is super sketchy as well.
Yeah, you have to be practical.
And all right, so speaking practically, my definition of a great nutrition, great diet, if you want to put it with that, it's a diverse diet, whole food, you know, a variety of colors, a variety of nutrients, because your body really needs all the tools, all the resources to create these building blocks of life. And the color reflects that variety. Like color in foods reflects nutrient density, nutrient variety.
Right.
And your body is so good and so intelligent at taking these building blocks and organizing them and shuttling them around and really thriving off of that. The problem with processed foods is that what are they doing? They're exploiting the reward mechanisms in our brain that otherwise would tell us this is a good food to eat, this is fresh, this is healthy, this is nutrient dense. Like take a Dorito. Dorito has that fatty flavor to it. It has all these colors, right? But it has zero real nutrients in it.
I always
Fruit
call
Loops.
foods like that are just crack. They're lab designed, just crack.
They're exploiting reward mechanisms. In nature, it's so difficult. If you go out and into the forest and you try to find something sweet or fatty, you're gonna have to work extremely hard to get it. Either you got lucky, you found a fruit, or you kill something, now you're eating its fat. Or let's say you just happen to come across some honey and maybe you were brave enough to fight off the bees for it.
Right.
Now you celebrate and you have that rich glucose and fructose, right? And so it rewards you, and it's like your brain is rewarding you for taking the risk, putting in the work, and giving your body the most efficient fuel source, which is glucose.
Right.
And obviously, you know, with these processed foods, you overconsume glucose, you lower your insulin sensitivity.
Yeah,
we
you
live
just
sedentary
open the
lives.
pantry and you
we didn't have to work
2,000
to get
calories of sugar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a specific like thought leader that you like to follow when it comes? Like if you were like, I don't know about this particular food. Like is there someone that you go to for like most of your nutrition based stuff?
The answer is I never go to one person.
Okay.
I go to multiple people. And look, I love Alan Aragon's work. I love Simon Hill's work. Lane Norton, I know
that name.
BioLane. Oh my! I honestly I should have wore his shirt today.
Okay,
he has a shirt, just a black T-shirt, and it goes data greater than feelings. Because he'll call people out, like all these like influencers that think they know what they're talking about when it comes to nutrition. They make all these wild claims about nutrition, right? And oh, I feel this way and I feel that. It's like, dude, put the feelings aside.
Yeah,
this is what the data
give me a citation.
shows.
Like, give me a study. Let's look at it.
He's a master at looking at great research, very well established, really good trials. He can really get super nitpicky about certain things. And like, look, the truth is in the pudding. Like, that's just the way it is. And look, at the end of the day, I have another guy that I frequently get wisdom and advice from is my mentor, Dr. Wesley Smith, who's the head of nutrition and physiology at UM.
Okay.
He's the guy that inspired me to go into this journey.
Okay.
And
we got to get him on the podcast.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. He's a co-founder of a company called HealthSnap that does remote monitoring. And they just raised their Series B for $25 million. I mean, and he's living his dream, crushing it, helping so many people. I really kudos to that guy. Wes, if you're listening, cheers, man.
Wes, we're going to get you on the podcast.
You absolutely.
Oh, she's in the other room. I was going to tell her.
You absolutely need to. I mean, he's just a wealth of knowledge, information, and he lives the life he preaches. This guy was an elite athlete. I mean, he still is an elite athlete. He's a father. He's a professor.
We need to get this guy on the podcast.
Classes.
He's a local guy. Wesley Smith, right?
UM. Yeah, Wesley Smith. Dr. Wes Smith.
Write it down. Dr. Wes. He's a doctor?
Dr. Wesley. I mean, he's not a doctor. He did his doctorate.
He's a doctor. PhD. He's a UM scientist. Wesley Smith.
Head of nutrition physiology at UM. Co-founder of HealthSnap. He teaches more classes at UM than any other professor in the school. And he lives and breathes this stuff. And so anyway, he shared a quote with me that goes, I think it's something like, a lack of evidence does not mean evidence is lacking. Like just because we don't have the science or literature to prove that something is the case doesn't mean that it never will be the case.
Of course.
So that kind of helps people keep an open mind and understand that things are always evolving. You have to stay skeptical. And maybe you're right. Maybe some of these influencers and quacks are right about certain things. Yeah. They really could be. But we simply don't have the literature.
But some are for sure wrong too. So which ones are which?
Absolutely.
It's like the cereal industry paid a ton of money to prove that breakfast was the most important meal of the day, right? So, but no one had the money to prove that breakfast was a good thing to skip.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of studies that show that it's the most important meal of the day, and no studies to show that it's like not that important.
Yeah.
So, like you said, like the lack of evidence doesn't prove that.
The evidence is lacking.
Exactly. So, I love that. So you have a variety of people that you go to,
and those are just a few.
Yeah.
You know, there's subtopics in nutrition where I'll consult other people on. And I like to bring a variety of experts on the show. Like I've had Dr. Sean Baker on, who's a cardiologist. That name
sounds familiar.
And he's a carnivore. And this guy is like,
he's a hardcore carnivore.
Hardcore.
Okay.
And he's the kind of guy, just to put it in perspective, he'll make those like, what do they call, like duets, like where he posts a video in response to another video that went viral.
Yeah.
And it's like a vegan saying something that just makes absolutely no sense.
Okay.
While he's like cutting up and eating a steak. I mean, he has no chill.
I like that. I have no chill either. I like that a lot. But
he's great.
Does he believe that everyone should be carnivore?
I think the main takeaway in our podcast, which was a very early podcast, very early in my podcasting career, he said something along the lines of like, carnivore isn't for everyone. It's an incredible elimination diet, which I believe it is.
Yeah, so, I think that's pretty well established.
Yeah, it's like you cut off a bunch of foods, you go carnivore.
And you can add back.
Then you add back, and then you see how you feel.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that have certain, autoimmune diseases, chronic conditions that it can be very helpful with. But either way, objectively speaking, it is a very evolutionarily consistent diet. We ate a lot of meat as a species.
Yeah, it's hard to, and I think Peterson has a theory on this, of course, just a theory, but like one of the reasons that he thinks that meat works so well is because of how refined the process is from all the grass that the cows eat to get, and then eventually it has to get turned into meat, and like it goes through like an entire
life cycle,
and
it's regenerative to the remaining, to the,
and it's so purified and in a sense purified, and it's just so, I don't know. It's just it goes through like a whole process of from the earth to be turned into the meat of the animal, and then you eat it, and then
there's photosynthesis in the plants, and then they eat the plants, and then they poop, and they stumble on their poop, and it spreads more nutrients, and then the plants grow.
Yeah, the poop goes out, and everything that it needs to like be a strong organism is retained, and then that's like the creme de la creme, the theory would say.
Yeah.
And then you eat that, and like, how can you go wrong?
Yeah, like monocropping, it's like, if we just keep reusing this, planting the same crops over and over and over on the soil and depleting the soil of its nutrients and drying it out, like that's a huge problem.
Right.
Regenerative agriculture, and I'm not an expert in any of this.
Yep.
But regenerative agriculture seems to me like it is just so beneficial for the environment and for human beings in so many ways. I would love for you to bring an expert on the show, an expert in regenerative agriculture, and they can spend hours with you just, showing you how, in fact, this is the way that we're designed to live among other creatures, and to have this like, symbiotic relationship with our environment. I think a lot of our approach to nutrition now is parasitic to the environment. We're just like exploiting the environment, and we're not giving anything back.
Yeah. So what are you? So Whole Foods.
To say a variety of colors. So whole food, so food that has not been processed. For anyone tuning in, if you want to understand what whole food is and the different grades of processing, look up the NOVA classification for food processing.
Okay.
And it'll show you. And what's really interesting about that is like the most processed foods, like a characteristic of the NOVA classification is the most processed foods are, this is so toxic, are marketed as healthy. They're the foods that you see in like a package where it says like
low fat,
low fat, cholesterol free. It's like all this greenwashing, like, organic, like whatever.
It's garbage, right?
And it's just so bad for you. Ugh. Like the healthiest foods on the planet are, if you go to the grocery store, they're in the periphery of the grocery store because they're in the refrigerated section, and they have no marketing. When was the last time you saw meat needing any marketing? It doesn't need any marketing.
Yeah.
But processed foods, of course they need it, because otherwise it looks, have you ever seen those like Beyond Burgers? They look like crap.
No, the crazy
sausages.
thing is when you have like a whole food, right? And they put like a processed food next to each other, and then on day 1 it looks the same, and then on like day 40, like the whole food has been completely like eaten by the earth and it's like gone, and the fake processed food looks like almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because like no natural animal will eat it.
Yeah.
Because it's so fucking disgusting.
And it's made to have like a super
preservatives,
long shelf life. Like it's not. So that's another thing is like when you have these whole foods, not only are they going to actually contain more nutrients and they're going to have very bioavailable nutrients, your body can, readily use them. But it's also like because they're whole and they maintain that structure and they have typically a higher water content and stuff and more structural tissue, whether it's a plant or an animal, that increases the satiety effect. So that increases the fullness that you get when you eat that food. And it also increases what's called the thermic effect of that food. So by eating whole food, not only are you getting more nutrients that your brain and body knows how to use properly, but you're also more likely to, you're less likely to overconsume calories because it's more filling and because you need to spend more calories digesting the whole food. So to give you an example, if you take like, potato chips versus a baked potato.
Right.
Like potato chips, they're fried and they're dried and now they have less water content. They have the greater surface area. So they're covered in this fat. So you have a ton of calories in the fat and they have this like crunchy, addicting texture.
Salt,
whereas like a baked potato,
yeah.
dude, potatoes get a bad rap, but they're like one of the most satiating foods on the planet.
Oh, I love potatoes.
Yeah. So a baked potato that still has a lot of that moisture in it and that structure to it is going to be super, super good for you. Super satiating, tons of nutrients. It's great.
Baked potato with salt. Oh, delicious.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Especially after training because it's very starchy. So it readily helps to replenish glycogen.
Yeah.
And that's just, I love starches after training. It's just, you can take advantage of the high insulin sensitivity after the training, and then you can readily deposit the glucose in the form of glycogen into the muscle tissue. And now you're ready for the next day.
Is there like awesome. A time window on that you think
for the post-workout meal?
For like you said, like a potato or whatever after training?
So that's a great question. Look, a lot of people will refer to this like metabolic window, and Brad Schoenfeld, PhD in like muscle physiology, I think probably the number one living expert in like muscle physiology.
Okay.
I think he said something like, what was it? It's like, I'm blanking on the term. Give me a second. We could probably edit this out. I need
no, it's second. Okay. What does the term describe?
I just lost my train of thought for a second. Brad Schoenfeld.
About the window of eating
carbs
after the
here,
workout.
I'm back. Ready? So Brad Schoenfeld puts it like this. It's not a metabolic window. It's like, an anabolic. It's not an anabolic. Let me start over. Brad Schoenfeld, one of the leading experts in muscle physiology, probably the number one world leading expert in muscle physiology. He says it's not an anabolic window. It's more like an anabolic barn door. So it's not like this little window of time where you need to get your nutrients or else you don't gain muscle or make gains. No. When you train and you create that kind of stress in your body and you increase insulin sensitivity and all this stuff, you have hours and hours and hours where you can take advantage of that effect to add in food that is going to be readily used up by the tissues. It goes into repair. It goes into stimulate and upregulate muscle protein synthesis. So that's great. So it's like a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, I have to eat my protein within 30 minutes of training.
Right.
No. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
What you need to do is, the most important thing is that throughout the day, you meet your protein requirements.
Yeah.
It's not like the most important meal is like right after. It's you have time. And plus, what I would say as a physiologist is that it's not wise to try to consume a bunch of calories immediately after training, because you have this sort of like afterburn effect, which is like, training is stressful. It puts you in a more sympathetic state, which is not ideal for digestion. So it's like after training, cortisol levels are high, adrenaline levels are high. There's a lot of blood in the extremities and away from the digestive tract. And so you're not in the best state to just
That's
suddenly
why just
eat
like
a bunch
a
of
light
food.
protein shake after working out.
Protein shake is
great.
better because it's more processed and it's easier to digest. But if you just eat a bunch of steak and like lentils and like all this whole food,
this is a very
training,
natural thing that this is common for me and a lot of people. They're like, I can't eat after I train. Like if you train really hard, it takes you 2 to 3 hours, and then like I guess your body relaxes and it's like, okay, like we've recovered. And now we're ready to be fueled.
Exactly.
And it just feels very natural and it feels very healthy.
Yeah.
So I can get behind that for sure.
Exactly. And I'd really admire that you kind of have that intuition with your body. You know, for you, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they go to the gym and they like panic if they don't have a meal within 30 minutes. They're like, oh my God, I missed the anabolic window. Dude, that's bogus.
Yeah.
Like meet your daily requirements for macronutrients. If you're really trying to optimize for, you know, muscle mass, obviously you have to meet your protein requirements.
Yeah.
At least 0.6 or 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, at least.
Yep.
But then you also need fat
per pound of target body weight too, right?
Per pound of target.
See, that's an important one because I used to be like eating like 210 grams of protein, like as if my 210, but I'm like, I think I actually need to be 180. So I could probably be totally fine off 160.
And the difference between 180 and 210, honestly, like people can argue this all day. I think it's negligible at that point.
Sure.
Like you're really maximizing.
But to be fair,
MPS.
It's like, it is technically like the gold standard is target body weight, right? So like you should be.
Oh yes. Yeah. For the sake of simplicity, yes.
Yeah. I know it's like a nuanced thing, but it's something that I just like neglected. So I like to bring it up because I'm like, if I think that I'm probably like my target ideal body weight is 185 or 180, you know, my protein requirement would probably be like 165, 160. As
plus,
opposed to
like you're trying
190.
to lose some weight, like you're trying to lose weight sustainably, like you're at a consistent calorie deficit, like a really nice calorie deficit every day. You're not overdoing it. You're not underdoing it. And so for you to consume 30 grams of protein less per day, and still, again, the difference between 180 grams and 210 is negligible.
Yeah.
But 30 grams of protein is 120 calories. You know, that's automatically, like, imagine if that's the only difference that you make.
But that's in theory. It's not in practice.
Right.
To get those grams of protein, you're probably going to really realistically eat 300 or 400 calories, unless you're like a mad scientist bodybuilder and you're like, I know that I can just eat white fucking chicken meat.
Right.
If you're going to struggle to get those extra 30 grams of protein, you're probably going to get another 300 calories.
Right. So exactly. So like, let's say, for example, that difference in 30 grams is like in a ribeye.
Right.
Which has a ton of fat. Well, it has a good amount of fat in it. And by the way, I love ribeye. I'm not bashing on ribeye. It's my favorite kind of meat. So it's like, all of a sudden, those 30 grams of protein are more like not 120 calories, but like 300 calories or 200 calories or whatever. So that's a difference that is significant for you because, again, you're taking a very sustainable approach to fat loss where you have a slight calorie deficit. And so that is a very wise decision for you to make, right? Because if you went out of your way to get 30 grams because you're like, oh my God, 210 versus 180 is so much better.
Right.
Guess what? Now you have to find a different way to find that consistent calorie deficit and work even harder, you know, to make that happen.
And I think something that I'm like still realizing is there's a hierarchy of like what's important. And like I have a family, I have kids, I have a wife, we have, you know, I have a law firm, I have a podcast, I have a media company. I'm not going to just be like, okay, tomorrow, like right now, because it's important to me, everything's going to be perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to have to prioritize, like, for where I'm trying to go is like, what's more important right now for me? For example, is it being in a small deficit or is it hitting my protein requirement?
Right.
And I think that it's probably, for my current goals, probably being in a deficit is probably more important than hitting my protein goals.
Yeah, because at the same time, like you are getting really good sleep now. You are exercising consistently. And you really, like, even if you were to get 120 grams of protein, like if that's all you could get,
right,
that's still
probably get the job done.
Probably more than enough to maintain at the bare minimum, maintain your lean muscle mass.
Right.
So you're isolating fat as a fuel source and you're losing fat.
Right.
Yeah. And that's an important consideration. I know that this is understood between you and I, but I want to make sure that the listeners understand that, you know, in your case, we're making the effort to maintain as much lean body mass in your figure as possible.
Yeah.
While losing almost exclusively fat. because what that means is that you keep your resting metabolic rate very high. And by the time you get to your goal weight, it's easier to maintain. If I said, hey man, let's lose as much weight as possible in the shortest period of time possible, you would have to establish such a significant calorie deficit and compromise on so many things in your diet that yes, you would lose weight more quickly, but you'd lose a lot of muscle. And therefore you'd lose, muscle is the most
and I'd lose so much
active
like productivity
tissue.
too.
Yeah, you'd feel like crap.
Horrible.
Your libido would tank.
Yeah.
You would not be mentally sane, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do a 3-hour podcast probably.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to get legal work
But hey,
done.
what has like, Weight Watchers and all those different, courses and stuff on TV, like what do they reinforce? They reinforce this idea that the best weight loss is the best weight loss journey is that which you can lose the greatest amount of weight in the shortest period of time. That's been like reinforced over and over and over again by all these different
it's sad, but
people.
it actually is true because like if you think about the ads, it's like what do they look at? They go, I lost 82 pounds in 14 weeks, right?
It's like, and it's so unhealthy.
It's like
there's more to your health than your weight, and that is a terrible way to lose weight.
It's a terrible way.
And it's
everyone knows that
way.
now, but they still use it for marketing, and people, like we talked about before, it's eye catching.
Yeah.
And it's just the headline, it's just clickbait.
Yeah. And I've had the unfortunate reality is I've seen how this weighs on people's psychology and on like when I was 5 years ago, I started a company with an interventional radiologist, Dr. Moises Roisenthal, whose practices here in North Miami Beach. And he is someone that he unclogs arteries every single day.
Okay.
He saves people's lives.
Yeah.
Saves them from stroke. Like he is an unbelievable surgeon, Harvard trained, amazing guy. And when I was shadowing him, we had the chance to embark on a project together. We started a company that was all about lifestyle medicine for weight loss. He ended up getting a second board certification in obesity medicine, and we started working with people that had obesity and other metabolic conditions, and we helped them find and maintain a lifestyle that rewarded them with weight loss, but really just helped them in so many other ways. And the reason why I bring this up is because the vast majority of the people that we ended up helping were people that had tried other means, other methods for weight loss. The vast majority of those people had, gastric bypass. They had done all these magic weight loss pills and procedures and Weight Watchers, whatever. And it was so sad to see that they had this really good intention, that they thought they were doing the best thing for themselves. They spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy. And they just had this yo-yo effect because they were losing muscle, they were tanking their hormones, and man, it was.
Speaking of muscle loss, we're not really going to be able to talk about it now because it's like, not only could you have a whole podcast on it, you could have a whole podcast period, a whole podcast on just this topic, which is Ozempic and semaglutide.
Oh yeah, I've done several episodes with Dr. Moises Roisenthal about Ozempic and other GLP-1 agonists.
But it does remind, because it's a peptide, which is this new stuff that we texted about this, because I saw Huberman talking about the BPC 157, about he had a low back issue, which anyone who knows my stuff and knows my journey knows that I have had the 3 back surgeries, and I'm still suffering a little bit, not as much as I was a year ago, but definitely still suffering and looking to improve. And I'm going down the journey of also maybe doing a ketamine protocol.
Okay.
Side note, I've been following up with the people you introduced me to, so thank you.
Nice.
Other side note, I started actually like a really strict training regimen of the low back, and I think that's helping too. So anyway,
and so is fat loss, by the way, because it creates less pressure on the nerve that tends to.
The higher your testosterone too, it helps with like if you have low T, you have more propensity to be in chronic pain, right? So,
I'm not an expert in that. I don't know.
I think that it correlates. Like if you have higher test and you just feel better, that makes sense. So you're much less likely to have chronic pain. Again, I'm not an expert, so backing it up to keeping on the tangent, as far as like the whole foods diet, what has worked for you? And again, we know that's just anecdotal, but like what kind of whole foods, because, and the reason I ask this is because I saw on your stories recently that you were like slamming pickles, and I was just like, I fucking love pickles. And I'm like, I should eat them because
pickles are amazing, man.
So I had a bunch of pickles last night and today, and
nice. Great weight loss snack. And
so
just general snack.
Yeah, like
amazing.
What makes pickles so good? Like,
I mean, look, pickles are a fermented food, and so they're naturally rich in probiotics, and they're also a vegetable, right? So they've got the prebiotic fiber. So it's this combination of stuff, pre and probiotics, that support the gut microbiome, and improve its health and overall diversity of what's called microbiota, all these different bacteria. And that is very highly correlated with so many positive health outcomes. One that I mentioned in that story about the pickles was how the vast majority of your serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that helps to improve and stabilize mood, how 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. And so by improving your gut microbiome health and diversity, you can support the production of serotonin. And we also, it's very important to mention that you can't just eat pickles to solve your gut problems. Like you want a variety of fermented foods. You want a variety of puzzle,
right?
Yeah, you want a variety of prebiotic rich food as well. And then you want to limit foods that destroy the gut microbiome. So like sugar, alcohol, and also excessive stress, right? Like these things destroy the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Antibiotics destroy the gut microbiome.
Percocet.
I don't know about Percocet, but
no, it's well, I don't know about the biome specifically, but I just know that it's wreaks havoc on your digestion.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like when you start taking Percocet, and the reason that I bring this up is because I was on Percocet after the last surgery for way too long. Every doctor, like if you are taking Percocet for medical reasons, they also like prescribe you a stool softener. Because if you don't take a stool softener, you won't take shits. Like you will
just hardens up.
Yeah, you will not. Like you will get an impaction, and I mean maybe if you're drinking like massive amounts of prune juice, and like you can maybe get away with not it. But if you're taking like Percocet or oxycodone, I think is what a medical name is. Yeah, you will not shit because it's that much of a forget the medical term for it, but it basically just stops your digestion. It's crazy. I went through severe episodes, and one of them, the last one, landed me in the hospital.
Really?
But yeah. So anyway, I bring that up because if you're taking Percocet and you're not being super aware of like the fiber intake that you're getting, and take some stool softeners or something, you're going to set yourself up for some serious pain.
Wow.
So
pickles
are,
and they're also like 0 calorie.
Yeah. I was like, I got paranoid because I was eating pickles that my wife had bought. And then I was like, man, these are fucking delicious.
Yeah, they're great.
And I'm like, wait, these taste too good. Like I went and I read the label.
Some of them have sugar.
And I was like, these got to have added sugar. But the ones that I were having didn't.
Nice.
And they were like 5 calories or something, it's negligible.
Cool. Yeah.
But so is there anything to be like, I guess pickles, just make sure there's no added sugars is probably the only thing you need to worry about with pickles.
Sure. Like, but I don't want people to, suddenly start buying jars and jars and jars of pickles, just eating pickles all day long. Like,
no, it's everything
in moderation.
Balance,
That's another thing that I believe in is like we talked about the whole food, right? Not processed, lots of color in your diet, a variety of nutrients, but also like everything in moderation. Like that is time and time again, like, I really think that's like one of the best things you can do. It's like, don't go carnivore for the sake of getting healthy. Don't go vegan. Like try to get a good balance,
but also,
and I'm sure your body's going to give you signs and symptoms that something might not be very good for you, and listen to that.
Balance can be hard.
Consider working with an expert.
Balance can be a hard thing for humans because it's like decision fatigue. It's like, well, like here's eating the same thing. And I've heard this from a lot of people, like a lot of like the really like, maybe not healthiest, but the people who like just do really well and who are in really good shape, they just have like their foods that they know work for them, and they just don't they don't make it complicated. They're like, I have 3 meals that I eat. Yeah. And I think that could work really well.
Adherence is one of the best things, So another couple things that I can recommend that can maybe reduce the decision-making fatigue for people is eat local foods that are in season. Be in sync with your environment. And also you're going to lower your carbon footprint as well, right? If you're choosing local foods, they're going to be fresher. They're going to be right there. They don't have to fly across the world to get to you, right? Like you shouldn't be eating avocados in Alaska in winter. That just doesn't make any sense. So like
I had a huge avocado today,
Yeah.
so I hope that works.
well,
with,
we're in Miami and I guess it is technically winter. Is it?
yeah.
Solstice is coming up.
I don't know, but
Whatever.
it's winter in Miami. It's nice and cool out.
I mean, avocados in Miami all year. Like that's why we live in Miami.
Yeah,
But-
of course.
No, but seriously, like I would just try to choose everything that I just said, right? Whole, not processed, nutrient density, etc., and then local sourced, in season. Like that should be very helpful for a lot of people. Go to the farmers market. Go to your local farmers. Like, and also I think it's cool to see how the farmers treat their livestock and their plants. Like, you know, that'll tell you a lot about the quality of the food. So I think that's honestly, I can't recommend that enough. Like me, for example, I love going to, there's this little like farm stand in Southwest Ranches where my parents live.
Mm-hmm.
And the variety of food there, it's all local, all in season, and it's super high quality. It is expensive. I'm not gonna lie, it is expensive, but I think it's worth every penny. And then I frequent farmers markets on the weekends. And that's my favorite way to, you know, find the right food at the right time in the right place.
What do you think about yogurt, like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese? Because I like those, and I know they're processed, but
Yeah, I mean they're but again, going back to the NOVA classification for food processing, that would I think that's like at a level 2 process where it's like
almost the lowest.
Yeah, it's like level 1 is like not processed, it's like whole foods,
It's like a
and
piece
then
of
level
meat,
2 is
yeah.
like
Okay.
yeah, like exactly.
Milk, almost, yeah, like
Yeah.
milk or yogurt, it would be almost the same, right?
Pretty much. I don't know exactly where if that falls in 1 or 2, but either way, it's not so important. The point is that it's good. However, when it comes to dairy, my opinion is, and this is biased, and in some circles this is controversial, but I believe that raw dairy is going to be better.
Yeah, I've heard that
Again,
before.
this is very controversial. And I try to stay away from controversy, but also like A2 dairy, it's going to have some of the enzymes that help you digest dairy a whole lot better.
A2, the red
A2,
one. That's what
yeah.
we get, actually.
Awesome. So if you go to like
I've been drinking A2 whole milk.
it's great.
Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, great. I mean, again, there's
Higher
also
calorie, but I'm
but
aware
higher-
of it. I'm making
your
sure
body should
yeah.
be able to digest it better.
Yeah, it feels good on my stomach. So
Yeah, like for me personally, like I had to cut off like dairy for a long time because I thought all dairy was the same, and it would, you know, I do a lot of free diving and spearfishing, and in my case, it would lead to like sinus inflammation, and I couldn't equalize properly, and so I got to see like a very direct consequence of the dairy consumption. But as soon as I started to switch that out for like A2 and raw dairy, I've
Good.
had no issues at all, and I love it. My body thrives on it.
interesting.
Like,
okay.
you know, raw Parmesan and other cheeses and raw dairy. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I've been doing my main, like I'm getting pretty good with like, I have 2 like meals that are like a big like omelet and turkey and avocado is like one of my, it's like my meal in the middle of the day,
Nice.
which is great because it doesn't have any carbs. So it doesn't
Carbs aren't bad, but we'll return to that.
No, but for me, if I
Carbs
eat,
are great.
If I eat, carbs are great. Absolutely. I just like to have my carbs a little bit later in the day because that makes me so like, I get that calming effect from the carbs, the
Yeah.
insulin spike, whatever. And if I have it during the day, it keeps me from like being hungry and like crushing. Like, so when I have like a big omelet and avocado, and today I had 5 eggs with tomatoes, turkey, avocado, and 4 pickles.
Nice.
And it was like a big meal. It was probably like
That's
500 or
beautiful,
600
man.
calories.
That's great.
But a half an hour after I ate it, an hour after I ate it, I felt like I had nothing in my stomach, but I also had no hunger.
Yeah.
So that's for
Exactly.
me, that's dream
That's
state
exactly.
for
You
the
have that
workday.
clarity. You have that sustained energy and focus. I love that. Like me personally, I like to start my day with a very low carb meal.
Yeah.
That I can, because in the morning, and like I think we have this in common. In the morning, typically we're the most productive, and also if you wake up, you have the highest levels of dopamine. Because you replenish dopamine overnight and you sensitize your dopamine centers. You have this cortisol creeping up naturally to give you a lot of focus, productivity, energy, And then you also have in the morning as a man, the highest, and I'm talking for men. I'm not an expert in women's hormones and health and physiology. Men will also have the highest levels of testosterone. So in the morning, you're primed to overcome the most difficult hurdles, the most difficult challenges. That's when you should really try to hone in and accomplish the most difficult thing you have to do for the day. So within the first 2-3 hours,
which for me is like my favorite thing to do.
Well, that's another difficult thing, right? Yeah. You have to overcome certain mental barriers and physical barriers, and now you have everything you need to do that.
Yeah.
So I personally, and it seems like you like to do this too, have a low carb meal because I enjoy being able to replenish if I exercise, but also having like stable energy, mental clarity. And then after exercise, when I'm super insulin sensitive, I'll add in some kind of carbohydrate. And like you, towards the later evening, I'll add in maybe some more carbs because I'm replenishing and I have the anabolic barn door high insulin sensitivity to effectively manage all that. And then it helps me go to sleep because of the effect of tryptophan and serotonin that eventually becomes melatonin. And so it does help you sleep. So that's typically how I structure, my meals. And I have 2, maybe 3 meals a day. All whole food. I'll add in probiotic rich food. So fermented food. So kimchi, sauerkraut, or pickles, or maybe some Greek yogurt. I always go with the whole fat stuff, like the 000, like Oikos, whatever. I'm not trying to bash on that company, but like 000, like it might seem, it has lower calories and has lower fat, but that's really processed.
Mm.
And
so I've been getting the 0% Fage.
Go whole fat.
Go 4%.
Go whole fat.
Whatever.
Go. There's if you shop like where do you shop? Whole Foods or Publix?
Various depends on.
So like if you go to Whole Foods, anywhere you can find this, but if you go to Whole Foods, for example, I know they have like a few whole fat A2, Greek yogurt. That's my go-to. I forget the name. I think a Stonyfield makes a really good one, and there's another one I forget.
What's the calorie difference? I guess I just have to be stricter on my overall calories if I'm going to be eating full fat. I just have to be aware,
Yeah, but I think technically it's going to be more filling. Don't quote me on that. Sure. But again, I just think it's less processed and just more natural. And going back to our evolutionary design, we're not designed to eat these processed foods. Like I think the combination of the fat and the protein is better.
Yeah. No.
Again, I'm not, I wish I could really go down that tangent and do that point a little more justice there, but it's just, to me, more natural and less processed.
Nice. Yeah. So I think
I'm not in the camp of like, it's called IIFYM. I'm not one of those guys. If it fits your macros, like I've seen so many of these like people on Instagram and social media, like they'll eat anything as long as it just fits their macros. Like that is not healthy.
I feel like the people that do that and get away with it are all like between 20 and 25. Because
and they're getting on stage to, and they're fake natties.
If it fits your macros, try doing that shit when you're like 45. Maybe if you've been ripped your whole life and your body and you're just metabolism.
It's a sad way to eat.
But like, it just doesn't work. For me, it doesn't work. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that I like having like my most filling and carb heavy meal like around 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then I'll have like a dessert, which is like blueberries and Greek yogurt.
Nice.
Like an hour later.
A dessert you'd find in nature.
Yeah. It's an amazing dessert, by the way. Yeah. Like it's sweet enough.
You can add a little bit of honey to that too. Glyphosate free.
Yeah, I can add some
raw
of the,
honey.
like nice honey. I'm just not used to that, but I've done it before and it's good.
Little touch.
Or like
it's actually good for testosterone.
I throw a few cashews in there too. How do we feel about nuts?
I mean, look, the paleo community can bash us all day long. I like to do nuts here and there. I don't need as many nuts as I used to. They're super calorie dense though. They're very calorie dense. That is a good point, is like if you had someone try and guess like what a serving of nuts looks like, they'd probably get like a handful. And it's like, if you see what the serving size actually is, it's like half of that, but it's so difficult to tell the difference.
It's like
and they're
8 nuts probably, right?
Yeah, they're so fatty. They're objectively healthy. They're super nutrient dense. Yeah. They have fiber, they have protein. But like the ribeye example, right? Like it's going to have more calories.
Yeah.
Depending on your goals, that may or may not matter.
Yeah. No, so that's my perfect day is wake up, caffeine,
You got to wake up.
caffeine, lift, cardio, chill, electrolyte water during that and after that, protein shake, do a little work.
Let's try to swap the protein shake for whole protein.
Instead of a protein shake,
Whole
like
protein.
eat something.
Yeah.
But see, I don't have any appetite at that point.
So then why are you having a protein shake? Why don't you just have like
Just
essential
to start
amino
like
acids?
getting like, well, I guess I have a little bit of, it depends how much of a deficit I'm in. If I'm in a deficit, I'm probably hungry.
Okay. If you find that you're like at a plateau, I would just swap that for essential amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. They're going to have 0 calories and they're going to help energize you too.
I am having those based off one of our discussions. I'm having that.
Yeah, the
while I work out.
Kion amino acids.
Yeah.
The reason why, I am affiliated, full disclosure, with Kion, but the reason why I like them is because their formula, the essential amino acid blend, is almost identical to human flesh amino acids. And so your body, when you consume that, I think the way it works is like, it's got all of the essential amino acids, but then it's got a slightly lower amount of tryptophan. And so the aminos will compete with tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier to reduce the perception of fatigue, because it's the precursor of serotonin and melatonin. I know we had a whole conversation about serotonin being important for mood and all that, but in this case, it's like it can help energize you for a moment in time. And it also has the building blocks of protein. That's a oversimplified way to describe it. I suggest tuning into a podcast that I did about essential amino acids with Angelo Keeley, CEO of Kion, if you guys want to learn more.
But you would say
I would swap the protein shake for that.
No, but if I'm already having that, like I drink that like during my morning or during my workout.
If you like it, it's convenient, it's giving you results, great.
But if you think in a perfect world, I would take the protein shake out and just wait till I get really hungry and then just eat my omelet.
I would do that. Yeah.
With my avocados and pickles and
I would do
tomatoes
that.
And whatnot.
100%. Yeah.
And then just scrap the protein shake altogether, or do it in a different order.
I don't think if you're, I understand protein shakes are delicious and they're convenient.
Yeah.
But I don't think human beings need to have protein shakes.
Yeah. It's just processed, right? It's just like not that natural.
And it's not as satiating, not as hypothermic effect. So
what about just a glass of whole milk, A2 whole milk?
Yeah. I mean, that's
like a natural protein shake.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a little more calorie dense and it's still liquid calories, but yeah, I mean, I would probably, if I were you, I'd rather you just do like eggs and get like a carton of egg whites, and you could do like one, egg yolk, which is super nutrient dense, and then half or 1 cup of egg whites.
Yeah, I've been meaning to do that actually.
You can make that in same amount of time it takes you to make a shake. You can just make that instead.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a higher satiety effect, higher thermic effect, and tons of super highly bioavailable protein.
Yeah, no, that's like the perfect meal for sure.
If it's okay with you, I kind of want to jump back into some of the testosterone stuff.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. I want to talk about the BPC
157.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in that.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that it's like in a lot of ways, like a Swiss Army knife peptide, in the sense that it can help people with all kinds of stuff like injury prevention and recovery, inflammation.
Huberman
pain.
said he had 2 shots in his low. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I got to at least start researching this.
I can get you in touch with all kinds of experts.
I want to talk to somebody about it because I think it's not that recent, but he's basically like, he had a low back issue. He had 2 shots. He's been perfect ever since.
I think
sounds great.
If you want to learn a little more about that and be very intelligent in your decision making for that, and you want to get a great consultation from experts that I love, check out MHI, Medical Health Institute. They're here in Miami.
Okay.
And these guys are masters at peptides. And then I know, I have a whole list of people that I can recommend. But those guys are awesome.
Medical Health Institute. I'm gonna flag though. I'm gonna leave this open.
And let them know I sent you.
Okay.
What else?
They do this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Or they would steer me in the right direction?
Both.
You think they do it? Okay, great. All right, I'm adding it on my to-do list. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
So with regards to your testosterone, we've made a lot of different changes, and this is, I think you have absolutely crushed it in the sense that we've been able to accomplish change that feels realistic and attainable for you. And it seems to me like you're just kind of like living your life, right? But we have these subtle cues that we've added in.
Well, I've made a lot so I've lost weight. The DEXA scan, I don't know how accurate it is, but we can talk about
gold
that.
standard.
but they put the wrong height. I don't know. It says
Either
I'm
way,
25%. Maybe I am. I don't know what I was before. So
25% body fat.
yeah. I think just going, let's just say I was at 35 and I went to 25, right? Because I definitely was higher.
Mm-hmm.
I was around 225 pounds and I wasn't.
How much do you weigh now?
I weigh like 203.
Wow. 22 pounds in what, these 5 months?
6 months, yeah.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. No, I was probably actually, no. My highest was 225 of like, but that was probably like a year ago or maybe 2 years ago even.
So you think we were like, I don't know, maybe 220
I was probably
or so?
215 when I did the blood test. Maybe somewhere like that. Yeah, probably 215.
Still great. It's sustainable.
It's amazing. But also I'm stronger too. So it's misleading because I'm less fat and more muscle.
Yep,
so,
exactly. Yep. Very good distinction there. Yeah.
I think that even if I hadn't been sleeping better, even if I had still been drinking alcohol, I still think that my testosterone probably would be higher as a result of just being leaner.
Yeah. Well, so let me put it like this. Something I want to mention real quick is if you stayed at the same, if you were 225, like before we worked together, if you were 225 and then I magically just like, imagine I slapped on 5 pounds of muscle on you.
Yeah.
Now you're 230.
Yeah.
Your body fat percentage would go down. Right. The relative amount of muscle.
Yeah, my lean mass would go up.
Exactly. Right. So what I'm trying to say here is you were able to lower your body fat in 2 ways. You've burned fat and you've gained muscle. And so I think that we've made a significant improvement in your body composition.
Yeah.
And we're only going to continue to improve. And now because you have more muscle, your resting metabolic rate is higher and it's easier to establish this calorie deficit.
Right.
So we've done it the right way. This is amazing news, man.
Yeah.
And testosterone is really just an amazing molecule for so many reasons. I mean, yes, it gives you more confidence, more trustworthiness. It gives you more strength, the higher reproductive capacity. I mean, it has all these insane benefits. It's cardioprotective. It's amazing. But I want to just kind of highlight how testosterone is a hormone that in a lot of ways motivates us to reproduce. And it's sort of like this marker of like how prepared you are and how healthy you are. And so as a result, your organism is going to motivate you to progenate, to reproduce.
It's kind of like your score of how well you've been doing, right? It's like if you are doing everything right, you're going to probably have really high testosterone.
Because your body's motivating. Your body's going, oh, you're healthy. Your odds of survival are high. Let's, and now we're in the right, we're in the living conditions that we think are, how do I put this? Like your body's motivated to reproduce because it has the means by which to do it effectively. Right. And so it's like,
it's kind of like a female who's living super unhealthy, her body won't make a baby.
Yeah.
Is that a decent? Yeah. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, no, we're not ready for a baby because like we won't be able to bring it to life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a man's body being like, no, we don't want you to reproduce because you're not ready. You haven't like earned it almost.
Exactly.
That's not there.
Well said. Yes, exactly. And so the fact that we've doubled it is, to me, is I'm so happy for you. Yeah. And we're only going to continue to improve.
Yeah. I want to know, I'm curious how high I can get it. Like that's I
think realistically, if we're basically at 600 now, I think we can get you to beyond 800. And between 6 to 800, that's a big jump too.
Yeah.
It's not double, but that's
guys,
huge.
We're talking about 100% natural. The only thing I'm doing is taking creatine. That's it.
Nice.
I took a few testosterone pills, this upgraded one, but gave me crazy diarrhea. So
upgraded
I'm not
formulas,
take that yet.
Which, by the way, is not TRT. The upgraded testosterone.
It's just like natural stuff you can take to help your body.
I think it has like tonkat Ali or something. It's like a blend of herbs that increases testosterone, make it more bioavailable too. It increases your free testosterone. It can also lower sex hormone binding globulin to increase free testosterone. But the point is,
like 100% would be allowed under any USADA anything. Like it's right.
Yeah, you mean like a WADA or like whatever?
Yeah, it's like not considered doping at all. I would say
it's
so. Just like
and
it's like a supplement, right?
Yeah, and what's cool about, I don't know if it's WADA certified. I don't want professional athletes to just start taking it blindly.
Yeah, of course.
And I've had to be really good at that because I've worked with professional athletes and they're so, oh my God.
The rules are crazy.
No, you wouldn't.
Adderall is still like a banned substance, I think, too, right?
Probably.
Just
I
a
have no
stimulant.
idea.
Yeah.
But anyway, like what's cool about Upgraded Labs and shout out to them. They're absolutely
That's
amazing.
the brand that I ordered. Upgraded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they test every single batch, and from what I understand, they're one of, if not the only company that has like clinical trials for their magnesium supplements for all these different supplements, like real clinical trials. They're great. Third party tested, super high, they're great with the sourcing. I'm not affiliated with them. I had Barton Scott, the CEO on my podcast recently, and we went through some of this stuff. And I was so impressed that, obviously now we're in a position where we can start to play. Now that you've, in a lot of ways, not mastered, but you've seriously engaged in a sustainable lifestyle shift.
Yeah.
Let's start to add some things in that can take you to the next level.
Well, I need to get my diet cleaned up because I'm doing like 60 to 70% diet, but if I went to 90%, 95% diet, that would be what I need to get, the last 15 pounds and get to that 15. I think 15 is probably like a good goal for me body fat wise. Like
15%. 15% is great.
Dialed in.
Yeah.
Still very lean, but plenty of body
high,
fat to be like healthy and high testosterone.
Exactly. That's a really important point because we've been, again, reinforced by the media to think that the healthiest human beings are the ones that are sub 8% body fat, and it's like shredded, and it's like those guys are on gear, or they have insane genetics, or both.
Yeah.
And I think I know that a healthy amount of body fat is going to be like, it depends on your genetics, but 8 to 15 is great. I think for most people, 12 to 15 is even better.
Yeah. Well, of course, like anything, the ends of the spectrum are going to be the outliers.
Yeah.
And they're going to be probably not the best for everybody.
Yeah.
And then in the middle is probably like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where
and
it's like easy to sustain.
People are going to think I'm bragging, and I'm proud of myself for this.
Yeah.
But I've gone into like sub 6% body fat.
Yeah.
Great for a picture.
Yeah.
But you feel like crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think all the girls are gonna look at you, and the only people that look at you are the men, and you're too anxious to talk to the women.
Yeah.
Because
and you also don't feel great.
No, you feel like crap.
Your sleep is bad.
Anxiety's through the roof, testosterone is super low.
Yeah.
And I've worked with professional athletes that they're like, they have these egos and they think, oh, I have the highest testosterone. They get testosterone checked and it's like super low.
Yeah.
And I'm just
I follow a lot of bodybuilders, both like female and male. And I just like love the way that the body looks like when it's like around 10 to 15. Like that just looks.
I'm like 12% now. And
that looks amazing. The best to me, just as like a person looking at like, that looks like desirable. It looks healthy. And then when I see somebody that I know that I'm like, I follow them on Instagram, right? And I see them like, maybe like once a month or whenever I look at their stuff and I see them, I get accustomed to seeing them around, 12%, 15%. And then all of a sudden I see them preparing for a show and I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, I know that they only do it for like 2 months or a month, but it just doesn't look, it doesn't look healthy to me. And I know that
getting there is not healthy at all.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Bodybuilding is like probably the most unhealthy sport ever, physically and psychologically. And
it's crazy to get under 5%, and to be that big too.
But don't get me wrong, a lot of people like building the mental resilience, the mental calluses. They like to show people what they can do. They like to show themselves what they can do. That's beautiful, but
yeah, and if you stop when you're like 33 and then you like live a really healthy lifestyle, you could probably be okay, but it depends how much gear you took, obviously. Yeah. But I'm like obsessed with like getting healthy now and getting lean, but I definitely don't think that, and I just like to eat too much. I definitely don't think that I'll want to like get leaner than 10%. Like, I don't even think I'll get to 10%. Like,
I think you can.
I could, but I just want to keep making progress and then just see where it goes. But nice. I don't think that getting much lower than that is worth it.
I don't think so either. The trade-off just becomes, it's not warranted.
Especially naturally, because I'm like a very, I want to see like how far I can go, like completely natty. Like I don't want to do anything if I don't have to.
Yeah. And I'd say for now, man, one thing that I would like for you to commit to is no liquid calories, no more shakes.
Okay.
You can have, like you said, try to get to the 90-10, right? Or the
90%.
Start with an 80-20.
Yeah. I just want to make progress.
Like I'd be lying to you if I told you that my diet is 100% clean. Like, I think it's when in Rome, right? Like
Yeah.
when it's appropriate. And sometimes eating something that with your family, it might not be the healthiest thing, but being among other people and just the endorphin response to that, the oxytocin, like that stuff is cardioprotective. It can give you a host of benefits outside of the food. Like,
Yeah.
like I think food isn't just the calories. It's not just the degrees of processing. You should be able to have some fun.
Yeah.
And maintain your sanity.
Yeah.
I'd say for now, let's try to limit the liquid calories.
Okay.
And let's try to abide by some of the rules that we committed to the slow carb diet by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, I've done that before. It works really well.
Yeah. So I think we should maybe try and commit to that for another 30 days.
Okay.
And then you have that one built-in go crazy day.
Yeah.
Which does help with metabolism and again, maintaining your sanity. And that's like the one day where you could have your liquid calories if you wanted to. And also glycogen load up because other days you're pretty low on carbs. And so,
right.
But anyway, let's try to cut out the liquid calories for now.
Okay.
Let's keep doing what you're doing beyond that because you're doing great. And keep sleeping great.
Yeah, sleeping good. I'm excited to see where the test can go.
800 is it's on the horizon for us.
4 more months, you think? We'll do a check-in in 4 months?
I think so.
Or 6?
Yeah. 4 to 6 months to 800
4
plus.
is good. I feel like we'll do a check-in and
awesome.
It's like, we'll do a check-in. We'll do a blood work right in the middle of the year.
Okay.
So that's like 4 months.
Like June?
Like June 15th, something like that.
Nice.
And we'll see where we're at because, cool. I feel so much better now that, I went from, let's just say, call it from 35 to 25.
Yeah.
Now to go from 25 to 15.
Yeah.
It's harder. It is hard. Like 35 to 25 is hard.
Yeah.
But I feel like 25 to 15 is definitely, now we're talking like serious, like top physiques of like just regular, like amateur
if you get to
people.
15% body fat with this level of strength and especially at 42 years old, like you're in the top 1% fittest people on the planet.
Oh, for sure. Not even close. I mean, and like that's a huge achievement. Like that's
huge.
A big deal.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It already feels like really, really great to be like lifting and feeling super strong and starting to get like, somewhat shredded in the gym is a great feeling. And I'm still at 25. So I can only imagine what it'll be like at 15 and just the energy that I've been low before. And the energy is insane.
Yeah.
Like when you're lean, like your energy is just crazy.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's such a good feeling.
I love that, man.
It's great.
I think it's something that everyone deserves to feel at least once. And if you feel it once, you're going to want to feel like that all the
I know.
time.
I feel like I'm a broken record when I like talk to certain people because I'm like, just like you got to get lean. You got to get lean. Like you got to start lifting. You got to like stop eating shitty food. Like you don't know how fucking miserable you are. Like your baseline is so off.
It's like people don't know until they just cut it off for like a period of time and then add it back in, see how you feel.
I'm kind of doing the same thing with alcohol right now. I'm like, a lot of people are just like 3-4 drinks a night kind of people. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like your body does get accustomed to it. So like, your baseline is now adjusted, but
your liver enzymes go crazy because
you're doing some serious fucking damage, like long term, but it's so easy to fall into that trap. So another thing that I've done is I haven't had a drink this year. So
no way.
It's amazing. Wow. And I'm like,
you've got all of that.
I know. Well, that's why it's just decoration.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah. Anybody that you want to come have some Blue Label when you come to the studio, it's all yours. You can have as much as you want because I don't drink anymore. That feels like a really big triumph.
That's huge, man.
So
it's absolutely huge.
Just like I wasn't drinking that much, but every time I would drink, it would really set me back, and my sleep would get fucked up. And
like it's what we call empty calories because they're not satiating. There's no nutrients, and it's also most people don't know this, but ethanol, alcohol, is super calorie dense. It's like 7 calories per gram.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like double what protein and
and it
carbs
just makes you sick. Like once you stop drinking, I have no desire to drink anymore. Just the thought of it just makes me like super sick. I don't even desire it anymore. So the road to 800.
Road to 800 to 15% body fat. Well, we need these specific goals, right? If we have these specific
goals. I want to have this goal. So I'm 200 away. I'm laser focused on that. Just sleeping well, eating well, lifting, we'll see how far I can go.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything else. Like all I have to do is just.
And by the way, this
stay
is
on
just for the
path.
next 6 months. Then you have the rest of your life. Like
Yeah,
you've
of
learned,
course.
you've established a level of change you've established change at the level of your identity, which is the most sustainable, and it's
Yep.
the deepest level of change, right? And then forget about me. You're living the life that you need to live to embrace your physiological potential. Like and again, reflecting the beautiful, intelligent design that's been preserved through millennia that you get to express by living biologically consistent.
Yeah.
So
What's
boom.
what's today? Today is the 23rd. All right, so it's like a week away from March. So do March, April, May, like June 1st, and we'll see. Like 3 months, basically. I said 4, so 3 months. That's a really good amount of time to. I want to not do a sprint because it's sustainable forever, but I want to just really hunker down and see what I can accomplish. So
Wonderful.
Well, we will chat again soon.
Awesome, man.
See you guys in the next one.
See ya.